Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kate and I thought today I would do a tag for you. It's the BookTube Newbie Tag, and I thought it'd be fun to answer these 10 questions and kind of give you guys a better idea of why I started the channel. And yeah, so this tag was originally started by Brenda C, I believe, a few years ago. It's been going around for a long time. If I can find the original video, I'll link it down below. But anyways, there's 10 questions, so let's get started. The first question is, why did you start this channel? So I started watching BookTube about 3 years ago, probably. I was just kind of looking for some new books to read and some reviews of books, and I just kind of stumbled across a couple channels. I just kind of got totally absorbed in these people who were creating YouTube content about books. I hadn't really seen that before, and just the kind of sense of community that there was between the people who were making these videos. Everybody seemed to either know each other or of each other, and they all seemed to get along really well. So I kind of fell in love with the community, and I just kind of lurked for a long time. I didn't really comment on anything. I never made any videos as much as I wanted to. I just kind of was too nervous or too shy, I guess. But then this year I just kind of decided to finally do it. In the last about month, I think, I've been doing this now, and I'm liking it. It's fun. It's hard, but it's a lot of fun, and hopefully I can actually get to talk to a lot of people who love books as much as I do, because I don't have a lot of people outside of like my parents who read or like books as much as I do, so I don't really have anybody to talk to in my real life about books as much as I'd like to. So it'd be nice to be able to talk to you guys. So the second question is, what are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? So hopefully, like, I'd like to do more than just your standard book hauls and wrap-ups. I know it's kind of a standard. I love watching those videos, so obviously I'll do them, and I think they're a good way to get introduced to new books and to see the kind of books that other people like to read, and whether or not that's the kind of channel you want to watch. So obviously I'll still do those kinds of videos and like tags, and I'll do a bookshelf tour eventually, I guess. But I think for me, it's more in terms of perspective in what I can bring to the community. So I think the main thing for me is that I read pretty much everything. I'll read from absolutely any genre. Obviously, I have my preferences, but I will pick up anything, and I love to read and experience new things. So I think that because I'm not kind of stuck in any one genre, that allows me to bring interesting perspectives to when I read a new book. So, for example, if I pick up a fantasy novel, that's not the only thing I read, so I'll be able to bring my ideas of what makes a good book outside of the fantasy genre, and whether or not it's actually a great book, or if it's just a good fantasy, or if it's just a good horror or something like that. So hopefully I can bring a unique perspective to some of the books that I read and the reviews that I do. The third question is, what are you most excited for about this channel? So I think, like I said in the first question, what I'm most excited for is getting involved in the community and getting to talk to other people who love books as much as I do. Like I said, I don't really have a lot of people in my real life that my life outside of the internet that like books as much as I do, so it'd be nice to be able to talk to people and kind of share experiences with people who read and like books as much as I do. The fourth question is, why do you love reading? it's an escape for me. It's a way to occupy my time, as mundane as that seems, but like it keeps me busy. I never get bored because I always have something to read. I remember when I was a kid, my dad always used to say only boring people get bored. So I was determined to never be bored in my life. So I think reading is a good way to kind of keep yourself occupied so that you're never bored. And like I said, it's a way to escape from whatever's going on in my real life, and to kind of meet new people, new characters, and experience life through their eyes. And I've always loved reading, and I've never really I guess I've never really thought about why I love reading. I always have. So the fifth question is, what book or series got you into reading? So I don't have a super specific answer for this question. Like I said, I've always loved reading. I don't remember a point in my life where I wasn't a reader, or I didn't enjoy reading. Even in high school and university, when you're kind of forced to read books, I loved them. I think there was only one book that I ever didn't actually read for an assignment, and that was John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath, which I couldn't get through. But I remember when I was a kid, I don't remember, but there's evidence of me when I was a baby. Like, I would chew the corners off of my mom's Harlequin romance novels, and like, I just grew up in a house with books. My dad's a writer, and my grandma on my dad's side is also a writer. They're both published authors, and both my parents were just avid readers. And my grandparents were readers as well, so I always grew up reading. My dad there was two books when I was a kid that I remember specifically, that my dad used to read to me all the time. The first one was Donna Onischuk was chased by some cows, and that one's about a girl who gives the world's best head pats. And so she just gets chased around her town by animals and people trying to get head pats from her. And I loved that book when I was a kid. And the other one was Alice and the Birthday Giant, or the One-Eyed Birthday Giant, or something like that. And my dad read that book to me so many times that he had it memorized, and he could just recite it to me, like while we were driving in the car or something like that. So yeah, I just always loved reading. And then also, my dad used to read, like, not children's books to me, but like, he used to read, I remember we used to pull the cushions off of chairs and take them and sit on them on the floor and just kind of cuddle up under a window in our dining room. And he read me The Hobbit, and he used to read me the Famous Five books by Enid Blyton. And I just have such fond memories of reading, and like I just have books like throughout my life that just kind of stick out to me. So I don't have any one particular book or series that got me into reading. I have these moments in these books that stand out to me from as far back as I can remember, and moments with reading that are important to me. And so yeah, it's just always been an important part of my life. So there's no one thing in particular that got me into reading. So the next question is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? So one of the things I'd like to ask, and hopefully I can deal with as I kind of progress in this channel, is how they don't maybe succumb to the pressure to like constantly read like 10 books a month. I'm not entirely sure how some people do it. Like, that's just not really feasible for my lifestyle. I work a full-time job. I have other things going on in my life. Like, as much as I love reading, I have other things that I do, and I have people in my life. I have family. I have a fiance. So I can't just spend every waking second of my day reading, so I'm not entirely sure how people read like really more than a book to 2 books a week. So I'd like to know like how they do, first of all, how booktubers don't kind of succumb or give in to the pressure to feel like they have to read constantly, or that they have to read a certain kind of book constantly, and how they're just kind of comfortable reading at their own pace, and making sure that they still enjoy reading, even though that they have this channel that they're producing, where they're constantly trying to come up with new content and show new books to people. So hopefully that made sense. That's kind of something that I'd like to know how other YouTubers deal with. So the next question is, what challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest to overcome? So like I mentioned in the previous question, just kind of the feeling of having to read a certain number of books every month, and maybe overcoming the feeling that I'm not reading enough to be able to have this channel. I try really hard to read at least 1 book a week, but sometimes I don't get to that, and I don't want to feel disappointed in myself for not reading that much just because I have this YouTube channel. And also, I'm really shy. I'm like a huge introvert, and I have a really hard time like going out of my way to talk to people, and I have to make like a huge conscious effort to interact with people, just because if I was left to my own devices, I would sit in a corner and read all day and not go to work and not talk to anybody, because I'm a huge introvert and I'm really shy. So I think those are going to be the biggest challenges for me, is trying to actually get involved in the community outside of just making these videos and talking to a camera, but making sure that I actually interact with people, because I would love to make friends with you guys and make friends with other booktubers, but like it's when you're an introvert and really shy, it can be hard to make contact with people. So I think that's going to be my biggest challenge. The next question is, when did you start reading? So like I said earlier, I just kind of have always been a reader. I don't remember what age I learned to read. I would imagine around 5 or 6. And I don't think I ever stopped. Obviously, I went through phases where I liked reading more and it was more important in my life. I know when I was kind of making the transition between middle years or like kids books to adult books, that was a hard time for me to find stuff to read. When I was growing up, when I was in your typical YA years, there weren't a lot of books for me to read. YA certainly wasn't as prominent then as it is now, and it wasn't kind of its own genre like that. I remember my local bookstore, so Chapters, really only had about probably like 3 cases, like bookcases of YA or teen books. So I read like a lot of Lois Duncan and that kind of stuff. But I had a really hard time finding things that I liked to read, and I was also my tastes were kind of changing. So when I was younger, I loved fantasy, and I kind of got out of that into my teen years and didn't really get back into fantasy until I got older and started reading adult fantasy. So yeah, like I've always been a reader and I've always read, but I definitely had phases where I read a lot more than I did at other times. The next question is, where do you read? So I read everywhere. I always have a book with me. I read on my lunch breaks at work, my coffee breaks, if I'm standing in a line somewhere. I always have a book in my bag. But most of my reading is done probably on my couch in my living room. I read a lot while my fiance is playing video games. We only have a 1-bedroom, so we'll both be in the living room and he'll have his headset on playing games, and I'll read, or I'll read before I go to bed. But yeah, so either in my living room or just while I'm out and about during my day. And the last question is, what kind of books do you like to read? So like I mentioned earlier, I read pretty much anything. I love fantasy. I don't really read YA, and I don't read a ton of romance, but I do read some. But yeah, fantasy, science fiction, literary fiction, nonfiction. I'll pretty much read it all. I love everything. I'll give anything a shot. But yeah, so hopefully I answered all those questions well. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, thanks for watching.